What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton needed less than a real day of testing to put the entire paddock on alert with the SF-26? In Bahrain, we were not seeing a simple reliability program. We were not seeing unintentional installation laps. We were seeing a 7-time world champion attack the first serious runs with Ferrari as if he had been with the team for years. From the first long start, the car looked stable, but what was really impressive was the naturalness with which Hamilton began to squeeze it under braking, in rotation, and when exiting corners. While Ferrari was executing a conservative plan focused on mileage and data validation, Lewis was sending a silent message. I'm not here to adapt slowly. I'm here to compete now. And the most disturbing thing for his rivals is that this was only the first day. The first day of testing in Bahrain started with a strange feeling in the paddock, a mixture of expectation and skepticism. Everyone knew that they were about to see something historic. Lewis Hamilton climbed into the SF-26 in real conditions for the first time, not in a promotional session, not in a limited shoot, but in structured runs with a serious technical program behind it. Ferrari did not come to this day looking for easy headlines. It came with a methodical plan: validate reliability, check correlation with the simulator, and begin to define the car's operating window on a circuit that punishes both aerodynamics and tire management. And within that seemingly conservative framework, something much bigger began to take shape. From the first long run, it was clear that Hamilton was not in passive adaptation mode. It wasn't just about completing laps and accumulating data. It was about understanding the character of the SF-26 in depth. In the hard braking of Sector 1, he seemed progressively more aggressive, releasing the car to the limit of the front support, looking for that exact point where the rear axle begins to insinuate itself, but without compromising stability. This sensitivity is not a coincidence. It is the result of years of fine-tuning the reading of the aerodynamic balance. And what was surprising was how quickly he began to find that limit in a car that was completely new to him. Ferrari, for its part, executed a very clear phase program. They alternated downforce configurations, varied altitudes, and worked different energy maps to evaluate how the SF-26 responded in changing conditions. Bahrain does not forgive mistakes. The abrasive asphalt and ambient temperatures expose any weakness in traction or degradation. However, the car was stable, predictable, and above all, consistent over long runs. There were no serious interruptions or reliability issues to disrupt the day's plan, allowing Hamilton to focus on what was truly important: understanding how to mold the car to his style. Furthermore, Ferrari did not show unnecessary cards. They didn't look for minimal fuel exhibition laps to top the charts. They focused on representative simulations and background work. And yet, within that cautious approach, the pace was solid enough to put the team in the front group conversation. That's what really matters on a first day of testing: the internal feeling that the base is competitive. And that feeling, according to what was breathed in the environment, was there. Hamilton also worked a lot on energy management and traction in slow corner exits, a critical point in Bahrain. It looked progressively finer when modulating the accelerator, avoiding unnecessary slippage that compromises the life of the rear tire. This detail is key because in long races, degradation can decide results. If these aspects are already being polished from day one, it means that Ferrari is not in basic exploration mode, it is in early optimization mode. But if the first day left Ferrari with good internal feelings, the second level of analysis began when the engineers began to cross-check data with the simulator and compare the different configurations tested during the day. This is where the story becomes even more interesting because we are no longer just talking about sensations on the track, we are talking about technical coherence. And in a preseason test, the correlation between what the simulator predicts and what really happens on the asphalt is pure gold. According to the program that Ferrari executed in Bahrain, the aerodynamic variations responded exactly within the expected range. That means SF-26 is not only stable, it's understandable. And when a car is understandable, it is developable. Hamilton played a key role in this phase of the day. As the runs continued, it began to offer much more specific feedback on transition behavior, especially in linked corners where the change of direction tests the aerodynamic platform. The SF-26 showed a more planted rear end than in previous seasons, something that allowed Lewis to be progressively more aggressive when attacking the apex without fearing a sudden loss of stability. This detail is essential because historically Ferrari has suffered when the car became nervous in crosswind conditions, something common in Bahrain. The fact that behavior remained consistent was a powerful signal to the team. In addition, Ferrari worked with different fuel loads to simulate different racing moments. In those longer runs, Hamilton demonstrated something that has always been one of his great strengths, the ability to maintain a constant pace without overheating tires. The Bahrain asphalt is especially punishing for the rear axle, and yet the SF-26 seemed to maintain a controlled degradation without abrupt peaks in performance drop. That not only speaks well of the mechanical and aerodynamic design, but also of a possible improvement in thermal management, a point where the team had shown weaknesses in the past. Meanwhile, the rest of the paddock watched closely. Not because Ferrari was setting outrageous laps, but because the pattern was solid. There were no exaggerated ups and downs, there were no messy stints, there were no desperate corrections in the box. Everything seemed to be executed under a clear plan. And that's what really worries rivals, the feeling of control. When a large team works quietly and smoothly on the first day of testing, is usually a sign that the foundation of the project is well built. Hamilton also began experimenting with small adjustments to the balance of braking and power delivery, fine-tuning the car's response on slow corner exit. This type of fine work is not usually done if the pilot is still in the basic adaptation phase. It means that you have already passed the initial level of understanding and are entering the optimization phase. And all this on the first real day of testing. That's the part that really surprised many within the paddock. The speed with which Lewis went from knowing the car to starting to mold it. Ferrari also showed no signs of being at the structural limit of the car. There were no excessive bounces, no obvious porpoising problems or straight line instability. The SF-26 appeared to move within a wide operational window, which is key to in-season development. A car that works only in very specific conditions usually suffers when the calendar moves towards more technical or variable circuits. But what was seen in Bahrain suggests that Ferrari has built a more flexible platform. And the most disturbing thing of all is that this was only the first day of testing. There are still evolutions, there are still fine adjustments, there is still room for improvement. If this is the basis, the inevitable question is how far this combination can grow when the first race arrives. And then we get to the key point of this whole story. The message that Ferrari left on the first day of testing in Bahrain was not loud, it was strategic. It wasn't an explosive statement on the timesheets, it was something much more dangerous, a demonstration of control, consistency, and potential growth. Because when the day ends and the teams begin to dismantle the garage, what really matters is not who topped the timesheet, but which team leaves for the hotel with more questions than answers, and which leaves with the feeling that everything is working according to plan. And on this occasion, Ferrari seemed to belong to the second group. Hamilton didn't just complete the program. Not only did he adapt quickly, what is truly relevant is that it has already begun to influence the direction of development. In every long run, in every fine balance adjustment, in every technical conversation, he was leaving his mark. That means Ferrari isn't building the SF-26 for Hamilton, but rather evolving it with Hamilton. And that difference is enormous. Because if the first day of testing already showed synchronicity, stability, and room for growth, then the real question is not whether Ferrari will be competitive. The real question is how long it will take others to react if this trend continues. What happened in Bahrain was silent but forceful. It was not a media coup. It was a technical warning. And in Formula One, technical warnings are usually the most dangerous. The first day of testing in Bahrain did not decide anything in official terms, but it did redefine perceptions. And in Formula One, perceptions within the paddock often anticipate what will come next. Ferrari didn't need to lead the timesheets to send a message. He did it with consistency, with technical stability, and above all, with the naturalness with which Lewis Hamilton began to coexist with the SF-26. What we saw was not a driver surviving a new car. He was a champion, quickly understanding his limits, exploring his balance, and beginning to influence his evolution from the first real day of testing. And that completely changes the narrative that many took for granted. We are not facing a slow adaptation process. We are facing accelerated integration that can drastically shorten competitiveness times. Ferrari also showed something that had been intermittent in recent years: control. Program control, car control, environment control. There was no improvisation, no serious technical shocks, no sense of disorderly urgency. There was method. And when a historic structure like Ferrari combines method with championship experience, the result can be explosive. The great key that Bahrain leaves behind is this: the base is there. The SF-26 seems like a solid, understandable, and developable platform. Hamilton seems comfortable, motivated, and technically involved from the first moment. And when those two variables align, the competitive ceiling rises considerably. Now, this was just the first day. More tests are missing, more conditions are missing, more direct comparisons are missing. But if this start is representative of the starting point, then the championship could begin with an actor who many quietly underestimated. Leave me in the comments what you think about all this.